Grab some mini terracotta pots and string lights to make this easy fall-themed decor. Start by laying a strip of washi tape across the sides and bottom of one of your pots, leaving enough on each side to tuck the ends underneath. Remove the strip and lay on a cutting board. This will serve as your template for the rest of the strips. Once you have all of your pieces cut, lay them across the pots, smoothing them down and tucking the ends underneath for a neat effect. Now it's time to add your string lights. If the hole at the bottom of your pots is too small to fit the bulb, you can easily widen it by inserting the blade of a scissor and gently twisting to enlarge the hole. Insert the bulb and use a hot glue gun to attach the plastic portion of the light to the base of the pot.
To start, grab 3 terracotta pots. Then grab an old flannel and button it up. Flip it over and cut off any excess fabric and attach to the pot with Mod Podge. Then grab the top pot and paint it white. Flip it over and paint the top rim yellow. Then hot glue on some straw. Next, hot glue 2 buttons on for eyes. After that, paint the nose orange and draw on the mouth with a permanent marker. It may help to sketch out the face with a pencil beforehand. Then grab an old pair of jeans and cut some of the fabric off. Attach the denim to the third pot using Mod Podge. Add another layer on top to solidify. Now it's time to assemble. Using some silicone, glue the pots together and let dry. Finally, add some finishing touches to make your scarecrow come to life. Some extra straw and a rope belt.
I took a couple of pots and played with how I could get them to fit together. I would put one pot inside of a larger one and then add the bottom tray and then put another pot on top. I used a hot glue gun to seal up the holes at the bottom, so I ended up taking a layer of Flex Seal and spraying it on the inside as well. I checked to make sure that my pot was watertight and then I was ready to go. I filled it up with water. Since I wanted the fountain to work by itself outside and I didn't want to worry about changing batteries, I purchased a solar-powered fountain. I wanted to decorate it to go with my fall decor, and so I used some leaves and a few other things just to kind of cover up any rough spots on the pot and to make it look decorative and festive and perfect for my holiday decor.
We're going to begin with 4 6-inch pots. Then what we're going to do is we're going to spray paint them. So we're going to place some cold glue all the way around the surface of this, and then we're going to take our second pot and stack it just like that. I also painted a version in this gloss green. Now we have some cold glue on top of the buttons, and now we can place them right to the pot. So for the hair, I have some orange yarn. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take our yarn and we're going to fold it over a bunch of times. And we're going to tie this right in the middle, and that's going to keep all of our hair secured. Once you have your desired amount of hair, you're going to cut it off. Now we're going to feed that yarn through the middle of the head until the hair is just sitting on either end. Add some of that cold glue to the surface and then place the head right on top. We also painted little arms, and we're going to just secure those right to the side. Now we're going to take this adorable dollar store hat and place it right on top.
You're going to need 4 tiny pots. Mine are 2 inches, a medium pot, and a large pot. You're also going to need a saucer. I cleaned them up, pulled off the price tags, and now I'm going to paint them. I'm using a white chalk paint. It absorbs nicely and dries quickly. Once all the pots are painted and everything is dry, I'm going to start drawing on some details. I'm going to turn these into cows. So I need to make the spots for the cows. And I'm just going to draw those in with a pencil and then paint on some brown paint. You can freehand this, you can get creative and really do whatever you want with these spots. While that's drying, I'm going to grab some rope. This is clothesline from Dollar Tree. You could also use some brown rope as well, whatever you choose. I'm going to tie a knot on one end and trim off the excess. Now I'm going to attach the knot to the top of the smallest pot. Now on the saucer, this is going to be the nose of the cow, so we want to draw and paint some little nostrils. Then on the medium pot, we're going to draw some eyes. I'm starting with a pencil, and then I'm going to go in with black and white paint markers to finish this off. To add ears, I'm using craft foam because this is going to be nice and durable. Now we can start putting this together. So I'm using that really strong craft glue again. This is just like an E6000. It's going to hold everything together and keep it secure. And then on the back, I'm going to glue on the ears. For the arms and legs, I'm going to thread the rope through the whole of the body, tie it into a knot, and use some glue to secure it. And then for the legs, I'm going to glue them to the inside of the bottom. Finally, for the head, I'm going to put this in place and glue it and put something heavy on it to hold it in place.